Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a guest of honour special address by a leader, a philanthropist, a guiding mentor, and a winner of our Golden Peacock Life Achievement Award for Leadership in Corporate Social Responsibility. She received this coveted award in Lisbon, in Portugal, from Dr. Ola Ulston, who was the former Prime Minister of Sweden, back in the year 2010. Mrs. Rajshree Birla is chairperson of the Aditya Birla Centre for Community Initiatives and Rural Development, and she's a director on the boards of the Aditya Birla group of companies. Her association with the IOD goes back over a decade now, and she ensures that she attends all of our annual global CSR conferences in India and abroad, and we've been greatly honoured and privileged to have her with us. Mrs. Birla spearheads all of the community initiatives, CSR and development projects at the Aditya Birla Group, which is one of India's largest conglomerates. Today, she's been unable to join us live. However, she was very kind enough to share a recorded speech. So I'm going to hand over to the people behind the scenes in IT and ask them to play the recording for us.
General Ahluwalia, Dr. Graham Wilson, and this distinguished virtual audience. I am indeed delighted to be at the Golden Peacock Awards function fronted by the Institute of Directors, India. The awards, as you all know, applaud corporate excellence in CSR. This is a recognition which all companies value as star CSR performers. At a personal level, the Golden Peacock Awards always rekindle some memorable moments. For now, nearly a decade, I've had the honor of addressing my fellow protagonists, all of whom advocate the need to bridge the inequities that we see in our country. This has been a year of terrible truths as we grapple with the disruption caused by the COVID pandemic. It has undeniably induced a severe setback in the social sector. India's case load has been the highest. At the outset, let us acknowledge our nation's doctors, medical and paramedical workers. They have and continue to go beyond the line of duty to bring succor to the COVID afflicted. Our population and the size of our country is beyond comparison. This inexplicable pandemic has been the bane of our century. I'm sure you all visualize the hardships faced by the people, most by the underprivileged and the community of laborers, and among them the community of migrant laborers. Truly, the pandemic has altered the course of India's economic and social fabric in all respects. Corporates from all sectors have supplemented the efforts of the government and NGOs to mitigate the COVID disaster. Industry associations such as FICCI, CII, ASSOCHAM, and many others have risen to the occasion to help the nation. At the FICCI, Aditya Birla CSR Center for Excellence, which I have the privilege to chair, we took cognizance of the immediate needs that were COVID-driven. A holistic approach was taken. This included distribution of cooked meals for lunch and supper, ration kits, PPE kits, working with NGOs like ISKCON and Gunj. At FICCI, we addressed livelihood issues mainly faced by the informal sector workers, migrants, small landholding farmers, returning migrants, village youths, and tribal women. So, with the Nudge Foundation, a 3-year project themed on creating resilient communities in Odisha, West Bengal, Delhi, NCR, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Karnataka, and Maharashtra has been launched. These initiatives will benefit 4 lakh families. General Ahluwalia requested that I focus on initiatives taken by our group. In a nutshell, let me just say that with my son Kumar Mangalam, who is the chairman of the Aditya Birla Group, we are all deeply engaged in COVID relief measures, engaging with the underprivileged and making a game-changing difference continues to be the mainstay of our CSR work. In our journey, right from our family patriarch, the legendary Sri Ghanshyam Dasji Birla, my grandfather-in-law, Puja Vasant Kumarji Birla, my father-in-law, to my husband, Aditi ji, to my son, Kumar Mangalam, service to society has been and continues to be a part of our legacy and the growing generational tradition. Moving on, let me place before you some broad thoughts to drive home the point that today a large segment of Indians here and the global diaspora are conscious of their duty to the underserved. In fiscal year 2020, private sector funding in CSR amounted to rupees 64,000 crore, up by 23% over 2019 at rupees 52,000 crores, mentions the Bain India Philanthropy Report 2021. It would interest you to know that the funds came from foreign contributions at 25%, CSR at 27%, retail investors 28%, and the balance 20% from family philanthropy at rupees 12,000 crore. The total public spending on the social sector was approximately rupees 15 lakh crore for 2020. Regrettably, we still rank 117th on the Sustainable Development Report. There's clearly a felt need to do much more. Doing good is good business. It implies doing the right things with integrity, guided by a moral compass. It augurs well that organizations realize that they are at a tipping point. There's enormous pressure on corporates and investors to move beyond the bottom line to broaden their lens. Business must take on a more holistic view of their effect on society as a whole. Environmental practices, social consciousness, and governance processes are a must. These elevate an organization's stature, win the respect, and bond well with people beyond its boundaries. From merely shareholder value maximization to a much broader canvas, it spans stakeholder maximization, which, beyond shareholders, factors the society, community, and employees. Today, we find a growing demographic of socially conscious youngsters. They gravitate towards the companies that have a purpose. Their definition of purpose is making the world a better place. This can only happen if everyone moves the needle. George Soros, the famous financier, sees philanthropy as a huge legacy, and in his words, I quote, "The money is a means to an end. The end is a philosophy translated into action." Unquote. The 2030 UN Sustainable Development Goals have clearly spelled out the ethical and existential dangers that face the world. The goals stress the need for collective action across all sectors. These wide-ranging goals, beginning with the SDG 1, which is to rid poverty across all nations by 2030, aim at restoring the dignity and self-esteem of all of the sufferings mankind across the globe. Towards the fruition of these goals, public, private, and social sectors, including capital infusion, must pull in the same direction. This is a valid ask if we want our world to morph into a more just, inclusive, and environmentally sustainable one. I'm heartened to record that progressive corporates are increasingly factoring societal and environmental dimensions into their business strategy. At our group, Kumar Mangalam, is very clear that we have to be driving a circular economy, pushing for sustainable processes in our businesses. He has laid out a strategic roadmap for achieving net carbon neutrality long term. Circular economy is a concept that goes beyond just recycling. It is a restorative and regenerative process that all of us must pursue. My sense is that more and more companies will frame a new business model hinged on innovation to enable circular economies, inclusion, and an affirmative impact. Change is underway. Look at the enormous global interest in rescuing us from our current COVID situation. Increasingly, companies will frame a new business model hooked on to innovations to enable the circular economy, inclusive growth, and creating an affirmative social impact. I very strongly feel that leaders at organizations will have to go beyond business leadership, develop a plan of action with the NGOs for inclusion, and commit time, energy, and the expertise to bring in a world that is just, inclusive, and environmentally sustainable. Today, more than ever before, the Vedic truism Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam rings through, and this feeling, this sentiment is being practiced. Besides the vaccine, hope and optimism will take us a long way. I would like to sum up in the spirit of optimism voiced by Kumar Mangalam at the 56th convocation of IIMA in the context of COVID. In his words, hidden behind the stories of loss and valor, agony and awe, ruin and revival is the power of the human spirit, a collective spirit that has enabled us to wrestle with this pandemic for over a year now, a spirit that has been tested again and again, but a spirit that will triumph no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Birla. I'm sorry it had to be sort of asynchronous, if you like, but I think your address has really highlighted the scale of contribution already being made to CSR, but also the enormous scope that exists if we all engage with it. The theme of engaging everyone in this process seems to be running through all of today's presentations.